How can you know you are a church planter? M4 has a vision to ignite church planting movement all over Europe. M4 is taken from the Great Commission, and it's about something that we think is important for all who's planting a new church. It's the master, I'm giving all power in heaven and earth. That's the Great Commission. It's mission, go therefore. It's multiplication, it's do disciple and teach them to obey. And it's movement, I am with you all the day. That's the basic, because we believe everybody can be a part of planting a new church, as the Great Commission is for everybody. But not everybody is the church planter. So therefore, we always work from what we call the ABC of church planting. Assessment, that is what I'm going to talk about now. Basic training, AB, basic training, that's the M4 training. And C, coaching or mentoring, that's the follow-up of the church planter and the team who are in the training. So M4 provide a framework for the ABC of church planting. So assessment, basic training, and coaching. We think all the three elements are equal, it's very important. So what about assessment? Well, assessment is something we want to do with every church planter who involves themselves in M4. An assessment is helping the church planter to understand themselves and reflect on their own life, their own ministry up to this time, and to see what are in them, what do they have to succeed as a church planter. And in the assessment, we go through 4 different areas with the church planter. First, the church planter reflect on this area for themselves. There is a questionnaire on the m4europe.com website where you can go in 10 different languages and do the assessment on your own. You don't need to do anything else, just go in and do the assessment personally for yourself. And when you do the assessment, you will have to reflect on 4 different areas. The first area is your calling. We believe that you need to be called to plant a new church. Calling internally, feel the calling from God to do a new church plant, planting a new community, to building up something new in a new area, in a new social culture, environment. That's important, the internal calling from God. But we also believe in the external confirmation from others. That you have people, maybe your pastor, other leaders around, that have confirmed and recognized the inner intrinsic calling in your life with an outside confirmation from other leaders around. The second thing is character. We believe it's important to have a healthy, godly character planting a new church. And character issue it's a lot of things about how you deal with other people. It's a lot of things that also how you have your marriage are, the character issue of your life. How you have a discipline in your life. So we will ask a lot of questions about character issue. A third thing is the chemistry. It's chemistry to your church environment where you're coming from, and it's chemistry to the context of where you're planting, the social cultural context or geographical context where you're planting. There should be some chemistry both to the church context, theology, or what you think is important from where you're coming from, and the relationship that you are in to your context of in the church, or to the local pastor, to the people in your denomination or network. That's important. There are some chemistry. There's good relationship, the healthy relationship, but also chemistry to the context, that you know and understand the people or the target group you want to target. And you have maybe experience of being in connection with that group already. And then you have a lot of competence area. It's the competence of visionary skill. There has to be something in you that can cast a vision, that can draw people into something that they can follow you. And there's also startup competence. You know, to start a new church, you need some startup competence. You need some movement forward. You need to have some intrinsic motivation to really move and get people with you and move to really get a new thing off the ground. Maybe you have some experience from before, starting up a youth work or starting up different other works. That's very helpful. Starting a group and starting another group. All this experience of starting up competence is important. And there's also evangelism skills or discipling skills or communication skills, different sets of skills or equipping skills. That is important. It's also good to have some competence of building team and building a healthy team around you, and some competence of church planting, understanding of what is a church plant and how you plant a church and different kinds of model of church, and that you have experienced some of this. And also some what I call social intelligence, because how do you deal with things under pressure? How do you deal with things when things get in conflicts? How have you dealt with this before? This is 10 competence area, and we ask a lot of questions. And you also need to reflect yourself on all these 10 areas. So, how do an assessment happen? Well, first of all, you go in and do your own self-evaluation. There are 2 questionnaires, one with a lot of questions on these 4 C's, the calling, the character, the chemistry, and the competence. And then you have 22 questions of more about what are you going to plan, what are the vision, what have you done before, how do you relate to people, a lot of questions that we want you to ask. And when you have gone through that, everything is online. You send this to the people that are going to assess you. And how is that done? Well, there is a 3 hours assessment interview. You come with you and your spouse that planting the church together, and there will be 3 persons in that room. It's the lead assessor, it's a co-assessor, and then an observer. And they will go with you for 3 hours and ask you a lot of questions on all these 4 areas to get a good understanding of who are you? What's in you that should really lead you to succeed in planting a new church? What people have you around you? When we are asking your question, we are not so much interested in listening to your vision or what you want to do, but more what you have done. Because this is a behavioral interview. And we believe that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So we are always looking at past behavior. What have you done? How have you dealt with things? How have you developed things? How have you discipled people? How have you done evangelism, reaching out to new people? How have you built team around you before? So we ask about past behavior more than future behavior. And that's the theory behind behavior interview. That's what we do in an assessment interview. So when we have done the assessment interview with you, we withdraw and then we will write a report. How we see you from 0 to 10, and we're going to argue how we see you on the different competence area, all the different 4 areas. We will write and what we see as your strength, and maybe also what we see as things area that you need to develop. When we have finished the report, we will send the report to you, feedback to you, how we see what we heard from you. It's not like this is the final judgment. It's just an outside reflection on you and how we see you could succeed to plant a church. We not only give it back to you, we also give it to people around you, maybe in your church context, your local pastor or the leader of church planting in the denomination. And then we have a 1-hour conversation with you, the leader of church planting in the denomination or local pastor or maybe your mentor, and then we give the feedback and go through the report with you and give you the feedback. And then we finished. And we will say, we believe you can plant a church. Or maybe we'll say, well, maybe you should wait a little bit. Maybe there's some area you need to work on before you go out and plant a church. Or maybe we will say, well, maybe you could be a part of the church plant, but not the leader in the church plant, because there has to be some more competence area that need to develop, or there are something with the chemistry that's not really fitting, or there are something with your calling that's not clear. We don't hear a clear calling. So we will give feedback and we will give a recommendation to the leaders around you. And then the assessment interview is finished. And it's the leader around you who decide everything. This is an assessment interview. So you have a self-evaluation that you go through. You send that self-evaluation to someone in the M4 context that will do in your nation an assessment interview. Then they write a report, they send it to people that you have around you, that you are confident with, that is your leaders, that take decision around you, and we send it to you, and we go through it. And we think, and we see, that this is a very healthy way of helping you to reflect and also see what area do you need to develop, what area do you need to grow in the competence, or maybe some character area, or maybe there's a chemistry, and maybe there's some of the calling that need to be clarified. But this is assessment interview. That one of the first thing in the ABC of church planting: assessment, basic training, and then coaching.